I used to think something was wrong with me. I spent years wondering why the standard rules of connection felt like a cage, and why my need for solitude was labeled as a defect. That's not a lack of emotion, it's a presence of purpose. Sometimes it's not the loudest person in the room who commands the most respect, often, it is the man who isn't even looking for the room's approval. While the alpha is busy maintaining his throne and others are desperate to fit into the hierarchy, the sigma male exists entirely outside the system. He is a finished product, a silent operator who values his sovereignty above social status. Because of this, he is often misunderstood, labeled as cold or antisocial, when in reality, he is simply optimized for a frequency most people can't tune into. That's why the reality is harsh. Only 1% of women can truly handle a man like this. Most will try to change him, but a few, the elite, will know how to walk beside him. You'll want to stay for this breakdown, because we are about to reveal the one specific trait that determines whether a relationship fuels a Sigma's empire or burns it down. Sign number 1, she pursues her own personal mission. Most women want to be a part of a man's mission, acting as a cheerleader or expecting his entire world to revolve around them. The Sigma male needs the opposite, he needs a woman who possesses her own obsession. He regularly disappears into deep focus mode for weeks at a time to build his legacy. The average woman feels neglected during these cycles and creates emotional noise to pull him back to a mediocre frequency. The rare woman respects his absence because she is busy building her own legacy. She doesn't just tolerate the silence, she uses it to fuel her own productivity. That's not neglect. That's a partnership of power. This works because two complete individuals provide the ultimate strategic advantage, absolute efficiency without the friction of codependency. This is the foundation. Without this, everything else falls apart. But even if she has her own mission, there is a second test involving the sounds of the household. Sign number 2, she values the power of strategic silence. Most women equate constant verbal communication with connection and require frequent reassurance to feel secure. But while others use loud intelligence to dominate, the Sigma uses silent observation to map out hidden patterns in reality. The average woman interprets this silence as rejection, resulting in forced chatter that drains his metabolic energy. The 1% woman understands that silence isn't emptiness, it is a high bandwidth frequency of peace where deep connection happens. She doesn't ask what are you thinking every 10 minutes, she simply exists in the space with him. That's not distance. That's a shared sanctuary. Mastering silence signals that the bond is genuine and doesn't rely on the superficial user interface of social performance. Most are mesmerized by the miracle of the word, but the elite find truth in the pauses. Next, we look at why she never tries to play fixer with a man who is already built. Sign number 3, she rejects the urge to start a renovation project. Most women enter relationships viewing a man as raw material to be unlocked, hoping to change his habits or priorities. The Sigma is a finished product operating exactly as designed. He has already optimized his grindset for maximum output. She will complain that he is too independent or cold, trying to pull his spiky profile back toward the mediocre average. The rare woman sees his completion immediately and recognizes a fully functional machine rather than a work in progress. She doesn't try to soften his edges to make him more marketable to her friends or family. And she respects the architecture of the man she chose. Total acceptance allows the Sigma the freedom to overclock his processors without the energy tax of constant social conformity. Society produces fixers, not partners. Finding a woman who respects the lone wolf design is a statistical anomaly. But even a partner who accepts him must face the walls of his inner world. Sign number 4, she respects his sovereign boundaries and guards his energy. Most women utilize emotional pressure, tears, guilt trips, or ultimatums, to influence behavior and demand 100% emotional transparency. The Sigma does not confuse emotion with truth, he guards his energy as a finite resource and keeps parts of his mind private. The average woman feels maddened by this mystery, labeling him cold when her tactics fail to override his logic-first boundaries. This disrupts her expectations and causes fear, as she realizes her traditional levers of control are useless against him. The 1% woman respects his inner world as a sanctuary, understanding that his privacy is what preserves his strategic edge. She doesn't see his walls as a challenge to be broken, but as a defense for the empire they are building. That's not detachment. That's existential honesty. This mental separation prevents the relationship from becoming a Red Queen race of constant manipulation and power struggles. The realization that they will never have absolute claim over him is a mirror most women are too fragile to hold. But the final test is perhaps the rarest, how she handles her own power and the world's clock. Sign number 5, she ignores social leverage and operates on her own timeline. Most women grow up knowing their beauty can bend men's behavior, and they follow an invisible calendar for marriage and status. The Sigma admires beauty but never worships it, and he refuses to rush commitments just because society says it's time. An average woman will find her beauty weapon fails to grant her special treatment, and she'll try to fast-track his choices through pressure. The rare woman brings substantial value, intelligence and wit, knowing that looks are temporary noise compared to her signal. She is independently fulfilled and secure, allowing the relationship to breathe without the rot of social ultimatums or beauty games. And she? She moves at the same calculated pace he does. That's not a delay. That's a strategic alignment. Decoupling from the social clock allows both to explore their potential without the midlife crisis of the cog that plagues the masses. This level of detachment is terrifying to those who rely on the crowd's approval, but for the Sigma, it is the only way to live. The reality is that most people will never understand the architecture of your life. They see coldness where there is actually focus, they see distance where there is actually sovereignty. But for the Sigma, these traits aren't flaws, they are the firewall that protects his mission from the mediocrity of the crowd. True power doesn't come from being understood by the masses, it comes from being so grounded in your own truth that you no longer require their validation. Your strength is far too deep for the average world to grasp, and once you realize that your solitude is a weapon, nothing can ever take that away. You aren't just surviving the social game, you've opted out of it to build something permanent. The 1% woman doesn't find you by accident, she recognizes the frequency of a man who has mastered himself. Until then, stay sharp, stay silent, and keep building. The world craves your attention, but it hasn't earned your time. Thank you so much for watching.